The great hall of the alien palace was filled with silence, broken only by the sharp sound of a baby crying. The wail echoed through the crystal pillars and rang across the wide chamber. It was not just any child. It was the baby princess of the most powerful alien empire in the sector. Every noble, every guard, and every attendant stood in unease. The emperor sat on his tall throne, his silver crown glowing under the soft lights. His eyes were narrowed as he watched his daughter cry in the arms of her nurse. The nurse shifted the child carefully, rocking her, whispering the songs of her people, but nothing worked. The little one's face was red, her tiny fists clenched tightly, her voice carrying sorrow that pierced every heart in the hall. Healers came forward one by one. They offered glowing crystals, sweet vapors, and soft chants that had calmed alien children for centuries. Still the baby cried. Some whispered that it was a bad sign, that the royal heir cried because of an unseen danger. Others believed it was a test of the emperor's rule. None dared speak too loudly, for the tension was thick. Among the many standing at the edge of the hall was a group of humans. They had been invited months ago as part of a peace agreement between Earth and the alien empire. They were soldiers, engineers, and diplomats, learning the ways of the empire while offering their own skills in return. Most of the aliens treated them with polite distance, still unsure what role humans would play in their future. One of the humans, a soldier in plain armor, watched the scene closely. His name was not shouted in the hall, nor was his rank important here. To the aliens, he was only a guest soldier, a man far from home. Yet when the child's cry grew sharper, he felt something stir inside him. He had heard the cries of children before, back on Earth, and he knew this sound. It was not only hunger or tiredness. It was the sound of a child searching for comfort, searching for a safe presence. The guards tightened their grip on their weapons as the soldier took a step forward. The court turned toward him, eyes narrowing, some in anger, some in confusion. No human had ever dared to walk closer to the emperor's throne without being called. But he did not stop. His boots rang lightly on the polished floor as he walked until he stood at a respectful distance from the throne. He placed one hand over his chest and bowed slightly, his voice calm but strong. "With your permission, Emperor, allow me to try." A wave of shock passed through the nobles. The idea was unthinkable. A human touching the royal heir? Many whispered at once, their voices rising like a storm. The head advisor stepped forward, his long robe trailing behind him. "This is madness. The human does not understand our ways. He cannot approach the child." The baby's cries grew louder, drowning out the advisor's protest. The emperor raised his hand and silence fell again. His gaze was sharp, his mind weighing the moment. He looked at the human soldier, studying the calm in his eyes. Finally, he spoke, his voice deep and steady. "Step forward. Show me what you can do." The soldier moved slowly, careful not to appear threatening. When he reached the nurse, she hesitated, her arms trembling as she looked toward the emperor. He gave a single nod, and she reluctantly handed the crying princess over. The human lifted the small child into his arms with practiced ease, supporting her gently. For a moment the baby wailed on, her tiny voice filling the air. Then she turned her wide, glistening eyes toward the human's face. Her cries softened. Her fists loosened. She let out a small, broken breath, then grew quiet. The hall froze in disbelief. The human rocked her lightly, whispering soft words in his own language. Words that no alien could understand, but the warmth in his voice carried meaning beyond translation. The princess's head rested against his chest. Within minutes, she was silent, her tiny hand grasping one of his fingers with surprising strength. Gasps and murmurs filled the chamber. The nobles looked at one another, their doubt shaken. The nurse stared in shock, her hands still hovering as if to take the baby back. The emperor leaned forward, his face unreadable, though his eyes shone with something new: curiosity, perhaps even wonder. The baby princess, who would not stop crying for anyone, had chosen peace in the arms of a human soldier. The court stood frozen, sensing that something had just changed in the empire's story. The hall remained silent after the baby princess had finally stopped crying. Every noble, guard, and attendant stared in astonishment at the human soldier holding the child. His calm demeanor and steady hands had achieved what no alien healer or caretaker could. The baby's tiny fingers still clung to his own, her wide eyes watching him with quiet trust. The emperor leaned forward in his throne. He studied the soldier carefully, noticing the ease with which he held the princess. It was not fear, not hesitation, not awkwardness, it was confidence and gentleness combined. He had seen many skilled warriors in his lifetime, but this human was different. This human had something in him that even the palace could not command, a natural understanding of a child. A group of advisors whispered among themselves, their voices soft but tense. "It is not proper," one said. "Humans are not meant to touch the royal blood." Another added, "The child may be safe now, but this could bring dishonor to the throne." The emperor's eyes narrowed, and the room went quiet once again. His judgment, as always, was final. The human soldier knelt slightly to bring himself closer to the princess's level. He spoke softly, in his own language, words full of warmth and reassurance. The baby's lips curled into a tiny smile. She let out a small giggle that echoed like a delicate bell across the hall. Even the sternest of the alien guards could not hide their surprise. The nurse, who had been holding the princess before, stepped forward cautiously. Her hands trembled. "She has never been calm like this," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. The soldier nodded respectfully. "I only listened to her," he replied simply. "I let her know she is safe." The emperor's gaze softened slightly. He had ruled for many cycles and had seen many human visitors, but none had shown such instinctive care. He motioned for the court to remain seated, though the tension in the room was almost tangible. "Let us observe," he commanded. "See how the child reacts, and judge for yourselves." Minutes passed, though it felt like hours. The baby princess snuggled against the human, her small hands exploring his armor lightly. She did not cry once. She did not reach for anyone else. Her attention was fixed entirely on him. In a palace filled with strange sounds, glowing lights, and unfamiliar shapes, the baby had found her peace. Whispers began among the nobles, cautious at first, then louder. Perhaps the human is special," one said. "He does not force her. He allows her choice." Another nodded slowly. "If she trusts him, maybe we should trust him too." Even the head advisor, who had been most skeptical, could not hide a frown of concern mixed with curiosity. The soldier adjusted the baby in his arms, ensuring her tiny head rested comfortably. He spoke again in soft words, and though the aliens did not understand the language, they could see the effect. The princess's eyes softened, her tiny body relaxed, and a quiet gurgle escaped her lips. It was a sound of contentment, the sound of a child who felt safe for the first time. The emperor finally spoke, his voice carrying across the chamber. "Human, you have calmed my daughter when none could. That is no small feat, yet I must understand this. Why do you succeed where our best cannot? The soldier looked up respectfully. Your Highness, he said, she is not afraid. She trusts that I will not hurt her. I only respond to what she feels, not what I am told to do. She knows safety when she feels it. For the first time, the emperor considered the human in a new light. Not as a foreign visitor, not as a soldier of another world, but as someone capable of understanding what many could not: emotion, instinct, and the quiet language of trust. The princess, still in his arms, reached for his face with tiny hands, her eyes bright and full of wonder. The court remained tense, but change had begun. One human soldier had shown that even across worlds, empathy could cross the greatest divides. The alien princess had chosen him, and in that choice, the first threads of a bond that could alter the empire's future were forming. The nobles whispered anxiously, the guards shifted uneasily, and the healers looked on with astonishment. But the emperor simply watched, thoughtful, as the human continued to hold the baby. In the quiet of the great hall, a new story had begun, one that could reshape the destiny of both their peoples. The days after the baby princess had stopped crying were filled with tension and curiosity. The human soldier had become a quiet presence in the royal court, always near the child. While the emperor observed in silence, the nobles whispered among themselves. Some were amazed. Some were suspicious. Many were unsure what to make of a human who could calm the royal air when the empire's most skilled caretakers had failed. The court was not used to such change. In the alien empire, tradition guided every action. Every movement, every sound, every ritual was carefully observed. To allow a human, an outsider, to hold the princess went against centuries of rules. Yet the result could not be denied. The baby seemed happy and safe. She reached for the human soldier's hand, smiled at him, and even laughed softly when he spoke in gentle tones. The head advisor gathered a few other nobles in a private chamber. This cannot continue, he said, his voice low and urgent. A human has no right to be near the heir. We do not know what he may do. The child may bond to him and reject our ways. That would be disaster. Others nodded, their faces showing fear and worry. They feared losing control, but most of all, they feared the unknown. Meanwhile, the human soldier moved quietly through the palace. He never interfered with rituals or ceremonies. He did not speak unnecessarily to the court. His only focus was the baby princess. He watched her sleep, fed her carefully, and sang songs from his own world. These simple acts of care created a growing bond that no alien rule could break. The baby would only settle in his arms. She would cry for no one else. One morning, the emperor observed a troubling scene. A group of nobles approached the soldier as he held the princess. Their expressions were polite, but their eyes were cold. You have done well to calm her, one said, but you must not allow this closeness to continue. The child is our future. She must follow our ways. The soldier lowered his gaze respectfully. Your Highness, he replied softly, she is happy when I am near. She cries when I leave. I only act in her best care. The nobles stiffened at his words. He spoke honestly and without fear, but his voice carried a strength they could not challenge. The baby reached for him instinctively, clutching his finger as if confirming his words. The head advisor decided to act. He began spreading doubt among the court. You see, the child is human touched, he whispered to others. She may forget the customs of her people. The human will shape her thoughts. He is not one of us. He cannot be trusted. Some nobles nodded in fear, but others paused, looking toward the princess and seeing her calm, trusting gaze. The tension in the court grew, dividing those who followed fear and those who followed reason. The emperor remained silent, observing all sides carefully. He saw the baby reaching out to the human soldier, smiling at his voice, relaxing in his arms. The choice was clear in her eyes, yet tradition and politics tugged at the court's heart. Some guards frowned, unsure if they should intervene. Some attendants whispered that this was unnatural. Still, the human never forced the baby. He only listened and responded with gentle care. At night, the soldier stood alone in a quiet corridor, holding the sleeping princess. He watched the stars beyond the palace windows. "You are safe," he whispered. "No one can harm you while I am here." The baby shifted in his arms, murmuring softly as if understanding his promise. Across the empire, tensions rose. Some feared this bond. Some marveled at it. But no one could ignore it. The next morning, the court gathered again. The princess smiled as she saw the human soldier. She reached for him, and the room grew still. The head advisor clenched his fists, ready to speak. But the emperor raised his hand. "Let her choice be seen," he said, his voice calm but commanding. "Observe her. See who she trusts." The court looked on as the baby took the human's hand, cooing and laughing softly. It was a quiet moment, but it spoke volumes. Doubt and fear still lingered, but trust and care were growing stronger. The story of the human soldier and the baby princess was no longer a matter of tradition. It was becoming a story of something new, something that neither humans nor aliens could fully understand. The court was divided. Some plotted, some feared, some watched in wonder. The human soldier held the princess close, quietly confident. In that moment, it was clear that the bond between them could not be broken easily. The future of the princess and perhaps the empire itself was beginning to shift in ways that no one could yet predict. The palace had grown accustomed to the human soldier's presence near the baby princess, though not all were at ease. Whispers continued among the nobles and guards, and even some attendants watched him closely. Still, the baby seemed happier than ever. She laughed more, slept peacefully, and reached out only for him. That bond, however, would soon be tested. One afternoon, as the sun cast long golden shadows across the palace halls, a sudden alarm rang. The guards raised their weapons immediately. A figure had entered the inner court without permission, moving quickly and silently through the corridors. Panic rippled through the attendants and courtiers. The emperor's advisors gasped, realizing that the palace's most precious treasure, the princess, was in danger. The human soldier reacted instantly. He had trained for unexpected threats many times before, but this was different. This was the child he cared for, the child who had come to trust him completely. Without hesitation, he moved toward the sound, holding the princess securely against his chest. Her small arms wrapped around his neck, but she made no sound, as if sensing the danger herself. The intruder appeared around the corner, a shadowy figure armed with strange weapons that glowed with energy. The guards moved to intercept, but the intruder was fast. The human soldier placed himself between the princess and the threat. "Stay behind me," he said calmly but firmly. His voice carried authority, and even the intruder paused, surprised by the courage of one human. The figure lunged, but the soldier was ready. With quick reflexes and careful movements, he deflected the attack. He did not strike to harm unnecessarily but to protect. Every motion was precise. The baby princess, still in his arms, watched wide-eyed as the soldier moved with determination. She felt no fear because he remained calm, and his calmness became her own. The palace guards joined the fight, surrounding the intruder. The human soldier guided the princess toward a secure chamber, speaking softly to her all the while. "It's okay," he whispered. "You are safe. I am here." She clung to him tighter, her small face pressed against his armor. The words did not matter as much as the tone, which carried reassurance and trust. When the intruder was finally subdued, the palace erupted in relief. The guards examined the figure and realized it was a rogue faction seeking to destabilize the royal family. Some whispered that if the human soldier had not been there, the baby princess might have been taken. Others began to understand why the emperor had allowed this outsider to stay near her. The emperor entered the secure chamber, his eyes scanning the scene. "You have done what no one else could," he said to the soldier. His voice carried both astonishment and respect. The baby princess stirred in the soldier's arms and reached for him again. She cooed softly, as if thanking him in her own way. The head advisor and several nobles still expressed concern. "He is human," one said sharply. "This is not proper. We cannot allow such closeness to continue." Yet the emperor remained silent, observing the unspoken bond. Even the skeptics could not deny the human's courage and care. The soldier knelt down to set the baby princess on a soft bed of cushions. She looked at him with wide, trusting eyes, then smiled. "I told you," he said softly, smiling back. "I promised I would keep you safe." The princess cooed and reached for his hand again, refusing to leave his side even for a moment. In the following hours, the palace held a council to discuss the attack. The human soldier did not speak much, allowing others to recount the events. Yet his actions spoke louder than any words could. He had protected the princess when danger was near, showing courage, skill, and a heart that could not be measured by rank or tradition. That night, the palace was quiet again. The baby princess slept in the soldier's arms, her small chest rising and falling gently. The emperor watched from a distance, thoughtful. For the first time, he understood that strength and loyalty were not measured by species or title. He understood that this human soldier had changed the story of the royal family with his actions. The court whispered quietly among themselves. Some were still uneasy. Some were quietly grateful. All had witnessed the bond between the human and the princess. One thing was certain, nothing would be the same in the palace again. The first threat had come, and the human soldier had proven that he would face anything to protect the child he had come to care for. The palace had returned to its usual rhythm, but nothing felt the same. The incident with the intruder had left a mark on the court. Guards were more alert, nobles whispered more often, and the baby princess's safety became the center of every discussion. Yet despite the tension, one thing had grown stronger than ever, the bond between the human soldier and the princess. Every morning, the soldier began his day by checking on her. He would quietly enter the nursery, his footsteps soft against the polished floor, and find her waiting with wide, curious eyes. She would reach for him the moment she saw him, smiling and cooing in delight. The soldiers who had come with him watched in awe. They had trained in battle, faced danger on distant worlds, yet nothing had prepared them for the gentle power of this bond. The human soldier did not only watch over her. He fed her carefully, singing soft songs in his own language. Though no alien understood the words, they could see the effect. The baby would laugh, clap her small hands, and sometimes try to mimic the sounds. Her eyes sparkled with joy, and even the sternest palace attendants could not hide their amazement. Outside the nursery, whispers continued. The head advisor remained skeptical, warning the emperor that too much human influence could harm the princess's upbringing. She must learn our ways, he insisted. A child shaped by an outsider may forget her duties, her history, and her people. Some nobles nodded in agreement, while others quietly observed the human and child, seeing a truth they could not deny. The emperor, however, seemed thoughtful rather than angry. He watched the interactions between the soldier and his daughter, noting how naturally the child responded to him. He realized that the soldier's care was not just skill, but understanding. He did not impose control. He only offered safety and warmth. Slowly, the emperor began to respect the soldier for his courage, loyalty, and instinct. One afternoon, the human soldier sat on the floor of the nursery, the princess in his lap. He held a small, colorful toy and demonstrated how to roll it across the soft carpet. The princess giggled and tried to push it back to him. Her laughter filled the room, a sound so joyful that even the emperor, watching from a balcony, could not help but smile. The soldier spoke softly, explaining the simple actions to the child. "Watch, you push like this," he said, moving the toy slowly. The princess watched intently, her eyes following every movement. Then she copied him, rolling the toy carefully. Each small success brought a tiny cheer from her and a warm smile from him. Through such simple moments, trust and understanding grew, deeper than words could express. The court began to notice subtle changes in the baby princess. She was calmer, happier, and more confident than ever before. Her curiosity increased, and she explored her surroundings carefully, always glancing at the human soldier for reassurance. Guards noted that she was no longer fearful of new faces, as long as he was near. Even the skeptical nobles began to admit, quietly, that perhaps the soldier was teaching her something important, courage and trust. At night, the soldier would carry her through the quiet halls of the palace. He told her stories of distant planets, gentle tales of stars, and adventures that never harmed anyone. The princess listened, her small fingers tracing patterns on his armor, her eyes wide with wonder. The human stories were different from the court's ancient songs, yet they held her attention completely. She learned that there was a world beyond the palace walls, and that it could be kind and full of discovery. For the first time, the emperor realized that this human soldier was more than a protector. He was a teacher, a friend, and a guide for the princess in ways the court had never expected. His presence was changing not only the child but the palace itself. Some nobles remained uneasy, some continued to whisper, but the bond between the human and the princess could not be ignored. The human soldier knelt beside her one evening, brushing a soft strand of hair from her face. "You are brave," he said gently. "And you are safe. Always." The princess smiled, resting her head against his chest. In her eyes was trust, in her small heart was comfort, and in that moment, the soldier knew that his care was shaping the future in ways even the emperor had not imagined. The palace had seen danger, tension, and doubt. Yet in the quiet moments of laughter, learning, and trust, a bond had grown stronger than fear. The human soldier and the baby princess had found each other, and together they were creating something powerful, a bond that could change the destiny of both species. The peace of the palace was fragile. Though the baby princess laughed and played safely with the human soldier, whispers of concern continued among the nobles. Some saw his care as a blessing, while others saw it as a threat. The emperor understood the tension and knew he must test the soldier not out of mistrust, but to ensure the safety of his daughter and the stability of the empire. One morning, the emperor called the soldier to the throne room. The baby princess reached for him immediately, her small hands clutching his armor. He knelt before her, speaking softly. "I will be back soon," he promised. She cooed in response, her eyes wide, as if she understood his words. The emperor watched the interaction carefully, noting the soldier's calm and the child's trust. The emperor spoke, his voice steady and commanding. "A threat has arisen in the northern territories. Rebels seek to destabilize the region and endanger our people. You will go and ensure the safety of the settlements. Success will prove your loyalty to the empire. Failure will have consequences." The soldier bowed deeply. "I will do what must be done, Your Highness. The princess will be safe in my thoughts." Preparations were swift. The soldier gathered his equipment, reviewing maps, and planning carefully. The northern territories were harsh, filled with jagged cliffs, dense forests, and unpredictable weather. Intelligence reported that rebel groups were well armed and organized. This mission would test not only skill but courage and judgment. The journey began at dawn. The soldier moved quickly but cautiously, keeping alert to every sound. He crossed rocky terrain, navigated dense forests, and avoided natural traps that could slow him down. At night, he set small camps, resting only briefly, thinking of the baby princess and the promise he had made. Each step reminded him why he must succeed. Failure was not an option. After several days, the soldier reached a small settlement under threat. Rebels were surrounding the area, ready to attack. The inhabitants were frightened, children clinging to parents, adults trying to prepare defenses. The soldier observed quietly, planning his approach. He could not risk unnecessary harm, yet he had to act decisively. Using strategy and skill, he created diversions, guiding the rebels away from the village and into narrow passes where they could be contained. He moved swiftly, disabling weapons and cutting off escape routes without causing injury when possible. His training and instincts combined perfectly, allowing him to protect the innocent and confront danger at the same time. The rebels, confused by his tactics, began to retreat. The villagers watched in awe as a single human soldier outmaneuvered an organized group. By dawn, the threat was neutralized. No villagers were harmed, and the soldier had successfully defended the territory. Exhausted but determined, he began the journey back to the palace. Upon his return, the palace welcomed him with cautious eyes. The baby princess ran into his arms, her small hands wrapping around his neck. He smiled, holding her close. "I kept my promise," he whispered. The emperor observed silently, a mixture of relief and respect on his face. The head advisor and nobles could not deny the truth. This human soldier had proven his loyalty, courage, and devotion beyond question. The emperor addressed the court, his voice firm. "This soldier has faced danger to protect not only the empire but also the life of my daughter. His loyalty is unquestionable. Let it be known that his actions reflect the courage and honor that our people value." Some nobles still whispered, hesitant to accept a human among them, but even they could not dispute the soldier's success. That night, the soldier sat quietly with the baby princess. She rested her small head on his shoulder, cooing softly as he told her of the journey. He spoke not of battles or danger, but of bravery, care, and the importance of protecting others. She listened intently, eyes wide, absorbing every word. In those simple moments, trust and admiration grew stronger. The emperor watched from the balcony, thoughtful. He realized that loyalty could not be commanded, it had to be earned. The human soldier had not only earned it but had also earned the trust and love of the princess. The bond between them was now undeniable, and it would shape the future of the empire in ways no one could yet foresee. The human soldier had faced a trial unlike any before. He had proven himself in skill, courage, and heart. And as he held the baby princess that night, the palace knew that their protector was not just a visitor from another world. He was a part of the story, a guardian whose loyalty would remain unshaken no matter what challenges came next. The palace was unusually quiet that morning. Sunlight streamed through the tall crystal windows, casting gentle patterns on the polished floor. The baby princess sat on a soft cushion, watching the human soldier as he prepared for the day. She reached for him immediately, her tiny hands clutching his armor. His presence had become her comfort, her joy, and her protector. The emperor observed from his balcony. He had watched the bond grow over many cycles, each day showing him that this human soldier was more than a visitor. He was patient, brave, and loyal in ways that even the oldest advisors had never expected. The palace had survived threats, doubts, and whispers, and now it seemed a new chapter was beginning. Today, however, would mark a turning point. The baby princess uttered her first word. It was soft, clear, and full of wonder. "Human," she said, reaching for the soldier's hand. The room fell silent. Every noble, guard, and attendant froze in astonishment. The baby had spoken in the human's language. A ripple of shock ran through the court. The human soldier knelt before her immediately, smiling gently. "Yes," he said softly. "It is me." He held her close, letting her feel his warmth. The baby cooed and laughed, her small arms wrapping around his neck. For the first time, the emperor allowed himself to smile fully, seeing that the bond was genuine, unshakable, and mutual. The head advisor, who had once spoken against the soldier, could not hide his surprise. He whispered to another noble, "She has learned from him. She trusts him completely." Some nodded in agreement, their faces showing awe and hesitation. Even skeptics could not deny that the human had earned the princess's love and respect. The emperor stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "This moment shows that loyalty, courage, and care cannot be commanded. They must be earned. And this human soldier has earned all three. He has protected my daughter. He has guided her. He has shown a strength beyond fear and doubt." The court listened carefully, realizing the truth in the emperor's words. The soldier looked at the emperor respectfully. "Your Highness," he said, "I only wish to serve. She is safe, and I will continue to protect her." The emperor nodded, a rare expression of approval on his face. The palace had seen danger, division, and uncertainty, yet now it had clarity. This human was not a stranger. He was a part of the royal family's future. The baby princess reached out, touching the emperor's hand with one small finger, then returned to the human soldier. She seemed to understand that the world was full of rules and power, but in the arms of her protector, she was free to be herself. The court could see the truth: a child's choice, guided by trust and love, could change even the oldest traditions. News spread quickly across the empire. The story of the human soldier and the baby princess inspired people everywhere. They saw that courage and loyalty were not bound by species or rank. They realized that trust, once earned, could shape the future in ways no law or custom could. Families spoke of the soldier's deeds, and children learned that kindness and bravery could cross the greatest divides. In the palace, life began to shift. The human soldier remained at the princess's side, guiding her, protecting her, and teaching her gently. The emperor consulted him more openly, seeking advice and trusting his judgment. Some nobles accepted the change quietly, while others continued to watch, learning that respect and understanding were earned through action, not fear. One evening, as the sun set behind the palace towers, the soldier held the baby princess in his arms. He whispered softly, telling her stories of distant lands, brave deeds, and quiet hope. She listened intently, eyes wide, resting her head against his chest. The palace was calm, safe, and full of promise. The emperor watched from his balcony, reflecting on the journey. One human soldier had stepped forward when a baby cried. That single act of courage, patience, and care had changed the course of the empire. It had united hearts, softened fears, and created a bond that no tradition or threat could break. The future was no longer uncertain. It was brighter, filled with trust, hope, and the promise of unity. The human soldier and the baby princess had shown everyone that true strength came not from power alone but from understanding, loyalty, and love. And in that truth, everything in the empire had changed forever.